Well, good morning. Welcome to the revamped version of the Pros Studio. We're going to get a new camera pretty soon, hopefully before summer's over, and we're going to do a proper video tour once we get it all kind of tightened up, I guess. But for now, this will just have to do. So, again, thank you to the team for this beautiful whisper room. Thank you. So before we switch to the site view and I become a box up in the corner, I wanted to say that I read a poem by Area Man, and it really just moved me, and it just stuck a cattle prod in my heart, and bzzz, it was just a beautiful feeling reading that piece. So I'm going to start with that, but I also want to start off with the challenge of the week for next week. And I'm going to read that right now and go into the winner of last week. So here we go. So the challenge of the week comes from the Wolf Den, and she says to me, "Hey there, I have the prompt for the next COTW and the other prosers who are judging it with me. The prompt: he was such a quiet man. After a long day of work, you pull into your driveway and find that odd neighbor of yours being hauled away in handcuffs, accused of a particularly heinous crime. The other residents stand in the street, commenting on their surprise. But not you. You knew something was off this whole time. What gave it away? Any tone, any format? The panel is myself, Ferryman, and H1. So you're not going to get a better panel for this challenge than this. And this is a great idea. So thank you, the Wolf Den. I will have this ready for the video when this goes live. Area Man, release. Where your poems are light and lovingly lit with meter, my poems are raw sewage and anger. And where I speak of going out on a limb for my one true love, that one true love is myself. Away from your pastoral venues, where lovers are entwined in spirit, mine are opportunistic scumbags, entangled in down power lines, without fanfare, delivered to me a libretto, fearless and graceful. Show me a sequence of words worthy of being recited down through the centuries, where I too may be remembered as having been a conduit for the divine." Yeah, that's a fucking great piece, Dave. And before I jump into the site view, I want to say here that I had such a good time reading the winning entry, and it was just, it was nice to read a story like that. Again, it was cool. It reminded me of, it was like a cross between like Tobias Wolff and like Iceberg Slim. It was just this beautiful piece that I can't wait to read for you guys. So it's coming up right now. All right, here we go. Before I go into the winner of this challenge, I want to say that the judge, or the panel, I should say, of judges who picked this one wanted me to mention H1. H1 didn't win this one, but I have to agree with the person who texted me or emailed me about this, that the originality in this it's really good. So I wouldn't have been surprised had this one taken it, but this is a great piece. So I'm going to link this whole challenge, as usual, into the video description and then the YouTube video. The video. I need more coffee again. Yeah, endless coffee in my house. So here we go. This was good. H1, this was this was damn good. So now, the winner of the 25 big fat ones is Air Joe 1122, and it's called A Real Stand-Up Guy. Scattered images in the purgatory between dream and consciousness pierced my aching head as I awoke, sore and disoriented. Cow shit like smelling salts, bringing me back to the land of the living. I looked around at the wide open enclosure of what looked to be a barn. Hay piled to the rusted steel roof on all four sides. Old John Deere tractors that looked as though they hadn't been touched in decades, sitting between two old dirty workstations with saws, screwdrivers, and nails sprawled like the after effect of a Midwest tornado. Where the fuck am I? I thought. Jesus, what happened? The images were still like white noise coming from a TV with barely any reception. The figures were there, so were movements, but the details weren't clear. Christ, my head was splitting. I got up and walked like a 3 a.m. drunk after being thrown out of a bar, all the way to the 2 large barn doors. I pushed on them. Nothing. There was a small split where sunlight creeped in. I could see what looked to be a chain on the outside. That would explain it. Panic was sitting in my chest. I slid down the barn door and sat on the ground, trying to slow my racing heart, trying to remember, trying to solve the mental puzzle. With my hands in front of my eyes closed tight, concentrating deep on my thoughts. The images began to clear like the calming of rippling water. Me and Jack Langley sitting in his Buick, parked in the tall grass in front of the Geary's mansion on Roseberry Hill. Both of us with ski masks on, both of us laughing, smoking cigarettes, thinking that it was too easy, too goddamn simple to break into this house, steal whatever valuables they had, and skip town. Too good to be true. Then I remembered what my father said before the cancer took him, that when things seem too good to be true, it's probably because they were. We walked out into the cool evening air with a brilliant orange flame setting over the western hilltops of Annandale. With a rag wrapped tightly around my wrist, I broke the glass above the doorknob, reached in and unlocked it from the other side. Inside, the house was quiet, dark and still. Then I remembered a gunshot ringing through the graveyard silence, sounding as loud as artillery rounds deep in the jungles of Quantry. I turned around and saw blood trickle down Jack's head like a scarlet constrictor before he fell back down the stairs. Then there was the fat man, 300 pounds if he was a pound, putting my head in the crook of his arm, a head that he could have popped like a cork had he wanted to, but instead, he put a needle in my arm and dragged me out to his shiny black Corvette, where he threw me in the back like a rag doll. There was another image, like a word on the tip of a tongue. It was there, but not there, close yet 1,000 miles away. A face at the window of the car, as my consciousness slipped into the ether. My head leaned against the window, and I saw a face. His face. Yes, his face. It was my mother's shithead husband, Frankie LaRocque. He was screaming something, his hands behind his back, before he was thrown into another car. Christ, I thought. Where was Frankie? What happened to him? Frankie, the greasy fucking bartender at the Dollar who got my mother to elope and marry him in Vegas while high as a kite on methamphetamines. Good choice, Ma. You got yourself a real stand-up guy, a real father figure. He was screaming, hurt him, hurt him. Or was it, don't hurt him? I don't know. Then I heard a rattle behind me. Someone was unlocking the chain. The door opened and Frankie was thrown to the ground. Soft, ridiculing laughter could be heard before the door closed, and the chain again locked. The sun too bright to see any faces, just sharp-dressed shadows. Frankie's hands were tied behind his back, and his face was worse for wear, like a fucking steamroller had run over it. His left eye was swollen shut, a plethora of purples and greens and blacks swirling like a vortex. Dried blood stained his ears, nose, and lips. He was crying. I'm sorry, Jamie. I'm so sorry. Jesus, I'm so stupid. I'm so goddamn stupid. What, Frank? What the hell is going on here? He stuttered. I sold you out, okay? I sold you out and now we're fucked. What are you talking about, Frank? What the hell did you do? He was crying like a baby. This big grown man, 6'3", 220 pounds, weeping like a teething newborn. What did you do, Frank? Tell me what you did. I grabbed him by the scruff of his wife beater and picked him up to his feet. He wouldn't look at me. He stared at the straw and shit in the ground. Look at me, Frank. Look at me. Finally, he listened, but his eyes took the anger right out of me, like a punch in the gut. I knew he was telling the truth. I didn't know what he did, but we weren't getting out of this barn. I let him go. I'm sorry, Jamie. They swore they wouldn't hurt you. They swore they wouldn't hurt me if I told them who'd been, ripping them off. What? What do you mean? Kid, your head's so far up your ass, you can't see you ain't as smart as you think. Young punks and their God complex. What? What are you talking about, Frank? Speak English. You were stealing from the wrong people, son, and having your drug-riddled fucking mom as your confidant wasn't exactly an Einstein move, was it? He stopped for a second, then continued. Look, kid, I was in trouble. Big trouble. Debt that I couldn't repay in 10 lifetimes, was gathering interest by the day. Your mom told me the night you were stealing money from the same guys, and I saw an opportunity, man. I saw an opportunity to give them information, to provide them with something. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Christ, we're dead. They swore they wouldn't hurt you, Jamie. They just asked for the money back, that's all. They might rough you up a little bit, but not this. They told me my slate would be wiped clean. I'd be free. I'd be good. I looked at Frankie, and then the chain rattled again. The door swung open. I didn't even look up. I just stared at the shit and dirt on the ground, knowing full well that I'd be sleeping underneath it soon. Way to go, Ma. You picked a real stand-up guy. I like the restraint and suspense in that story, and I think the judges did right by picking that story. I'm going to get out of here. I want to say thank you for being here, and if you're on thepros.com, thank you for writing or reading on thepros.com, and I will talk to you in the next video. Take good care.